happening. Tearing up a little bit. Leaving the place that I grew up. I mean, I've left here a lot before, but this is like, I feel like I'm moving to everywhere. Very uncertain future, and I really like that. I'm very excited. This is exactly what I wanted. So.
That was one of the most amazing feelings I've ever had. Years of preparation, and I'm finally off with everything I own and Coda, headed north. We met a nice man on a horse, found a horse carcass, pressed on into Utah, where I met up with Brian from Colorado Backcountry Adventures. We drove through Valley of the Gods, camped on a 2,000-foot cliff, and of course, did some follow-up YouTube videos. After parting ways, I saw some more bones, headed west, got stuck in the sand, got out with the Max Tracks, baked some cookies, and called it a night. Turns out I was camped at the site of an AZOP dirt bike race, and I ended up staying the whole weekend, riding my dirt bike, running a race checkpoint, making biscuits and gravy, and mobbing with Richie in the side-by-side. After that, I stayed at Walmart for a night to recoup and headed to Coral Pink Sand Dunes, where I pulled out not one, but two big old diesels with trailers buried in the parking lot. I went and mobbed my dirt bike with no paddle in the dune and headed into Zion National Park to hike around a bit with Coda. Since camping in the park was $40 a night for a crappy tent spot, we found a dirt road a few miles out and ended up stumbling across amazing mountain biking at one of the first sites of the Red Bull Rampage. I rode some epic mountain bike lines and made my way towards Tokerville Falls, where the dirt bike snapped off, and I got rescued by a nice stranger. After picking up the pieces at Walmart and working out a new way to mount the bike, I met up with some Jeep buddies from Arizona to do some wheeling at Sand Hollow. They trailed their Jeeps out and we had an amazing time doing some real deal rock crawling. After a month in the truck, I decided to make a quick pit stop back home to drop my dirt bike off and do some much needed modifications. I decided it just wasn't worth the extra weight back there to haul this thing around. But I had to get back on the road quickly to meet up with my best friend Chris in Vegas. We scooped up my new kayak, putzed around Lake Mead, and went to the Strip to do some people watching. After hanging with Chris, I went to Lake Isabella to meet up with Jason, Stu, and Jake to mob some jet skis. We had previously met on Instagram and were super stoked to hang out at the lake, make some cinnamon rolls, and get some killer content, brah. After that, they showed me an epic river and went back to work for the week. Adventure Brad was just an hour away, so he came by and we made a super random video about coffee, then went back to the lake so he could fly his paramotor. I stayed at the lake for a few days editing video and met up with the 395 crew again that weekend. We went to some warm springs, kayaked a little river, and sunk the Taj Mahal. I decided to stay at the lake for a few days to get some work done and do some kayaking. Then I went back to the warm springs for a few days to do some laundry and headed to Reno. I stayed on the Truckee River for a couple days while waiting for a shop to be open to get the power steering replaced on the truck. While I was at the river, Jack messaged me from Instagram. He was close by, so he met me at the river and we did a walkthrough of his sweet Bundutech camper. After getting some work done in Reno, I headed further north where I caught some snow in California, cooked a burrito, and headed into Oregon. I camped on Klamath Lake, saw some snakes on land, saw some snakes in the kayak, and found a super cool mountain bike trail that I shredded. After that, I headed into Bend where I met up with Keith Co., watched him work on his trailer. He introduced me to 7 other full-time van lifers, as well as the sickest mountain bike jumps that I've ever ridden, and well, we just had a blast. Then I did some fly fishing with one of my high school buddies, Johnny, met Brandon and the guys at Overkill Campers, shot some videos with them before heading out to meet up with Zach, aka PNW Overlander, to head through Washington. After that, I did a review of the McLean Metalworks mount in Idaho and crossed the border into Canada, where I met up with my aunt and uncle in Radium Hot Springs, explored a mine shaft, saw some bighorn sheep, and a black bear on my way to Calgary. After that, I met up with my cousin, hiked to a glacier, saw some more sheep, and headed to my hometown. It was great to spend time with family in Canada, and we rented a sweet Airbnb in Banff. A couple weeks later, I headed to Northwest Overland Rally, where the Dodge Mahal was in the Hellwig/SherpTech booth. This was one of the highlights of my trip, because I met so many people who follow the channel and made so many new friends, including Ashley. After the rally, I hit the forest with SherpTech to make a video about their truck beds and their lifestyle. I had a blast hanging out with Ryan and Rebecca, and Aaron and his wife joined us as well. Aaron then invited me to Nitro Gears the following day, where he was getting his truck re-geared, so I went and shot a video about that and met the owner Carl, who schooled me on gearing and showed me his amazing 33-foot 4x4 Cummins swapped RV. I had a great recommendation for a river camp spot, so I had to fit that in the schedule before heading to Ashley's house. Ashley and I hit it off right away and started traveling around Washington. We went to Rigstock, met Johnny Walker, did a video on his Subaru, saw Jason from Outdoor X4, and from there we mobbed with Daryl and Billy, aka Yoderholm, to Ocean Shores, where we met Matt and got to see his monster ambulance build. We drove on the beach, recovered some two-wheel drive vehicles from the beach, got the Yoderholm stuck and unstuck, and headed further north into the Hoh rainforest. We found a super wet trail and squeezed the Mahal down to the river to call home for a couple nights. It was at this river in the rainforest that Ashley and I decided we would travel together to the Arctic Ocean and Alaska. So we went back to her place, cut up the Mahal, and built an awesome indoor kitchen. We moved all her stuff into the camper, she built the dog platform for Scooby, I installed the WeBoost signal booster, and we headed towards Mount Rainier for a shakedown test of the new setup with Ernesto from Overland the Americas and Johnny Walker. We had a great time exploring Bethel Ridge, and the shakedown run was a success. So we headed through Mount Rainier and stopped at Mule Expedition Outfitters to chat with Joe and shoot a couple videos about the shop and their new Baja Runner build. Back to Ashley's we go for one last shower and sleep in a real bed. At this point, we're dialed in. We both have our routines. We both contribute to driving, setting up camp. I cook, she does the dishes. We're working as a unit, and I can feel the strength we have as a team. The only question is, are we down to mob? Wow, I had a ton of fun mobbing with you in 2019. I really only covered about 6 months worth in this video here. If you were in the video or not, thank you so much for being a part of this. I had a blast and I've had so much support. We've grown to 57,000 subscribers, and in 2020, we're going to break 150,000. We can do it. Set some big goals for yourself. Make sure that you're living this life to the fullest. I hope these videos motivate you. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the Alaska series. The question is, are you down to mob 2020?